won $1 million, and the first thing he tells you is that you're not good enough to be here. That's exactly what allegedly happened at Dover Motor Speedway on Sunday, May 17, 2026. And right now, the NASCAR world is still on fire over it. But before we get to that explosive moment, let's talk about how this race nearly destroyed half the field before it even got started. Dover Motor Speedway has always had a reputation for eating cars alive. The Monster Mile is one of the most unforgiving concrete tracks in all of motorsport. High banks, no forgiveness, zero margin for error. And on Sunday, it delivered exactly what its nickname promises. The 2026 NASCAR All-Star Race wasn't just a race. It was a survival test, and only the toughest made it through. The green flag dropped, and within 2 laps, everything went wrong. On lap 2, Todd Gilliland, Kyle Larson, and Ryan Preece all got tangled together in a 3-wide battle near the rear of the field. The result was a 9-car pileup on the front stretch that immediately brought out the red flag. But the scariest moment came when Preece's number 60 Ford backed into the outside wall, and the car caught fire. Flames erupted from the rear of the vehicle in front of a packed grandstand. Thankfully, Ryan Preece got out of the car under his own power and walked away unharmed. But the damage to the field was already done. Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney, 2 of NASCAR's biggest stars and past All-Star winners, were both collected in that crash. Their teams furiously worked in the garage, hoping to patch the cars together well enough to compete in the final segment. Chase Elliott was also caught up in the wreck and was effectively done before the race had barely started. The Monster Mile had claimed its first victims inside the opening 2 laps. The first 75-lap segment continued under caution before restarting, with Denny Hamlin eventually taking over the lead and setting the pace. But chaos struck again late. Carson Hocevar suffered a flat right front tire and hit the wall in turn 3, triggering another caution. During the pit stop shuffle that followed, Bubba Wallace restarted second and made a bold move, passing his own team co-owner Denny Hamlin in turn 4 to take the lead. With just 3 laps remaining in segment 1, a second massive 9-car crash erupted on the front stretch. Riley Herbst got loose, exiting turn 4, and received contact from Alex Bowman, causing a chain reaction that collected Chase Elliott again. Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, John Hunter Nemechek, Chris Buescher, Zane Smith, Noah Gragson, and others. The segment ended under yellow. Bubba Wallace was declared the segment 1 winner, and it's worth noting, Wallace drives for 23-1 Racing, the team that Denny Hamlin co-owns with NBA legend Michael Jordan. So even in a segment Hamlin didn't win, his operation still came out on top. The field either eliminated or badly damaged. Segment 2 began with the field completely reshuffled by the invert format, meaning the worst finishers from segment 1 now started up front. That handed the lead to A.J. Allmendinger and Shane Van Gisbergen, 2 drivers who rarely find themselves at the front of a NASCAR Cup field. They battled hard, but the run didn't last. Ross Chastain and Brad Keselowski made contact, exiting turn 2, sending both spinning. Segment 1 winner Bubba Wallace was also caught up in the incident, and Chastain's race was over on the spot. His number 1 Busch Light Chevrolet suffering heavy front clip damage with no realistic path back. Then Van Gisbergen spun while racing side by side with Allmendinger, nearly collecting the entire field. He recovered without causing further damage, but his moment up front was finished. Allmendinger held on briefly, but then came the driver who has defined 2026 more than anyone else, Tyler Reddick, running as the most dominant car in the Cup Series this season. Reddick surged past Allmendinger to take control of segment 2. Chase Briscoe briefly took the lead from Allmendinger with 9 laps to go, but Reddick immediately came right back around him and led the rest of the way. Reddick won segment 2. The 3 survivors heading into the 200-lap final segment with genuine race-winning speed were clear: Hamlin, Briscoe, and Reddick. All 3 driving Toyotas. All 3 capable of claiming that $1 million prize. The final segment started with Hamlin and Briscoe immediately establishing themselves as the two fastest cars on the racetrack. Briscoe cleared Hamlin on the restart and led the next 39 consecutive laps. For a long stretch, it genuinely looked like Chase Briscoe was about to pull off the biggest win of his Cup Series career. But there was a problem. A technical problem that kept following him every time he got to the front. "I just didn't have the rear grip," Briscoe explained after the race. "Anytime that I was not the leader, I would be really good, and as soon as I would take the lead, I would go into the next corner. I'm like, man, I'm way too loose." Every time Briscoe grabbed the lead, his number 19 JGR Toyota would start to swing out on long runs, forcing him to back off. And every time he surrendered the position, his car would come alive again in dirty air, allowing him to chase back down whoever passed him. It was a cruel cycle. Meanwhile, Tyler Reddick's challenge faded when he suffered an unexpected issue and had to pit under green, effectively ending his shot at the win. That handed the battle directly back to Hamlin versus Briscoe. Then came lap 322. 29 laps remaining, Denny Hamlin made the decisive pass on Chase Briscoe and never looked back. His long-run speed, his experience on concrete, and his car's superior handling in clean air all came together at the exact right moment. Hamlin went on to win by 0.887 seconds, crossing the finish line as the 2026 NASCAR All-Star Race champion and collecting the $1 million prize. Eric Jones delivered a remarkable drive to finish third in the number 43 Legacy Motor Club Toyota, his best result of the 2026 season. Austin Dillon came home fourth, and 19-year-old rookie Connor Zilisch charged all the way back from a pit road penalty mid-race to finish fifth. An absolutely stunning recovery that had people talking nearly as much as the race win itself. "It would have taken a lot to beat the 11 and 19. They were both really good," Zilisch said. "It was cool to be on offense for once, have good restarts, and not feel like a fish out of water." After the checkered flag, Hamlin was measured but confident in victory lane. "Makes it a lot easier when you have a car this fast," he said. "I just knew the game changer for us was long runs, and obviously the ability to pass when behind someone." He also addressed where the $1 million was going, and this is where the moment became genuinely emotional. Hamlin smiled and said, "I'll probably give it to Mama." A deeply moving gesture considering he lost his father in December in a fire that destroyed his parents' home. That one sentence silenced any debate about the man behind the helmet, at least for a moment. But that moment didn't last long, because what allegedly happened in the minutes after the race became the story that completely took over the NASCAR conversation. Chase Briscoe walked over to congratulate his teammate. Standard post-race behavior between two drivers from the same organization who just fought each other for $1 million. But according to Briscoe, Hamlin's response was to tell him he was still not Cup Series level. When Briscoe repeated those words to reporters outside the number 19 hauler, he wasn't emotional or confused about what he'd heard. He called the comment classless, not competitive, not trash talk, classless. The context here is what made the reaction so fierce across the NASCAR fanbase. Briscoe had slammed the wall during practice earlier in the weekend, forcing his crew to essentially rebuild the entire car from scratch. He'd also been battling a stomach bug for 2 to 3 days heading into race day. And despite all of that, he led 61 laps, went side by side with one of the best short track and concrete track drivers of this era, and finished second in the All-Star Race. "I knocked the wall down in practice and we basically rebuilt the whole car," Briscoe said. So for them to be able to get the car back to where it's competitive says a lot about the guys. Reporters asked Hamlin directly about the accusation. He never denied saying it. Instead, he deflected, suggesting emotions run high after intense racing. That non-denial only poured fuel on an already raging fire online. Fans split immediately into two camps. One side defended Hamlin, arguing that's simply who he is. Ultra-competitive, psychologically aggressive, a veteran who refuses to hand respect to anyone inside his own garage. The other side felt the comment crossed a clear line, especially directed at a teammate who nearly delivered Joe Gibbs Racing a 1-2 finish. The question being asked across NASCAR social media right now is straightforward. Is there a real power struggle building inside JGR? That question has legs because of everything happening around it. Joe Gibbs Racing is already navigating the tension between its established veterans and a new generation of drivers trying to carve out their own identity inside a storied organization. Hamlin, at 45 years old, has now become the second oldest driver to win the All-Star Race in its history. This was also his third consecutive win at Dover. 2 points-paying victories in the next-gen era plus this one. His dominance at that specific track is borderline historic. But Briscoe, despite sitting 17th in the Cup Series standings, is trending. A fourth-place finish at Watkins Glen the previous weekend, followed by a second-place All-Star showing at Dover, suggests his speed is real and consistent. "This is what we should be doing week in and week out," Briscoe said. "We've just executed the last 2 weeks, so our speed is clearly there. It's just a matter of putting that speed to use and capitalizing on it." Now let's be completely clear about who won and who lost at Dover on Sunday. Denny Hamlin won. Dominant, controversial, and absolutely unmissable as always. Chase Briscoe proved beyond any doubt he belongs at the front of these races. Connor Zilisch, at just 19 years old, showed a level of racecraft that had no business coming from a rookie, fighting back from a penalty. And Eric Jones delivered his best result of the 2026 season, in a race that featured some of the toughest competition the All-Star format can produce. On the other side, Chase Elliott never got going, eliminated inside the first 2 laps. Kyle Larson suffered the same fate. Ross Chastain was done before the halfway point. And perhaps most critically, the All-Star Race format itself took heavy criticism, even from fans who genuinely enjoyed the on-track product. Multiple massive crashes in the early segments, combined with the invert mechanics, eliminated several of the sport's biggest names before the race ever reached its most compelling point. Charlotte Motor Speedway and the Coca-Cola 600 is next, the longest race of the NASCAR season. And if you think the tension between Hamlin and Briscoe is going to cool down between now and then, you haven't been paying attention to how this sport works. Drop your answer in the comments right now. Did Denny Hamlin cross the line, or is that just championship DNA? Like, subscribe, and share.